Hello, future designers and developers. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to create just the aesthetic, this look of this little tech support chat that often pops up on tech software websites. That we have a nice automated system with some auto prompts. We've got some buttons that highlight and focus. So it just gives us a nice little direction. We can also go into here and we can type whatever we want to type. So we're going to go through all of that as we move through. So let's get started. We're going to get a blank template. You can see on my blank template that I have the font family, the colors, that's all set up, but we got to get started with our HTML. That's where we're going to get started with it. So inside of my index, I'm going to go into the body. We have a blank header up top, so I'm just going to throw in that header. That header just is kind of more to give context as to what we're doing, so we're going to have a header. Then we are going to have two different areas that comprise our chat. First, we're going to have a div with a class that's equal to the chat window. I was combining those and I got what? So chat window, we're going to have that. And then what we're going to use is we're going to have another div that is just called chat, because that is what we're going to use to arrange all the items inside of the chat. So we're going to have a chat window and we're going to have a chat. It'll become more clear why we're doing this once we start adding in our positioning and all of that. Cool. So inside of our chat, we have a couple different things. The first thing that we have, let me grab this up. This will be helpful. Cool. So we are going to actually throw this icon inside of the chat. It's just going to allow us to position a little bit more easy. So we're going to have this icon, we're going to have this top chat, we're going to have these two buttons, we're going to have this form and this button inside of that. Cool. So let's go back over here and let's start with our little icon over there. So we're going to have a div class icon. Cool. And after the icon, we are going to have a paragraph with a class. This is going to be called CC text. So that is going to be the text that is written out right over here, the hi, you're chatting with CC. So I'm just going to go and copy and paste this. So I've got my little chat dialog right there. That's the first thing that's popping up. Oh, inside of the icon, we are just going to write CC. That's not an actual image. That's just an icon that we're going to make because it's going to save us a little bit of assets and working with that. Then we've got account questions, service questions. We've got a form, and then we have got this little button. Again, just going to be using icon or text for a lot of that stuff. So the next thing that we're going to have a button with a class. We're going to call this one, we're going to give them two classes. So the first one is going to be auto prompt, because we're actually going to have two buttons that have this class auto prompt. But the first one is account and the second one is service. Cool. Account service. So the first one says account questions. And the second one says service questions. I believe it's just question. Cool. So now we've got these two little buttons over here, which I thought I got rid of the question marks. There we go. Cool. All right. Then after those, we are going to have a form. I'm going to give this class as our text input. It's going to be our form, and then we are going to have an input with a type. The type of input that we're putting in this is text. we are going to have some place holder. Oh, it's place holder text is equal to type something here. I'm going to change that to type your question here. I think that. Is it just placeholder? Yeah, it is just placeholder, not placeholder text. Cool. So now we've got our placeholder here. Type your question here. So we're going to finish that up. But we also do want a button right after it. So we're going to have a button with a class that I'm going to call send, because that's what we're going to use to send. And we're also going to give it a type. The type of button that we're using, this is going to be a submit. So that's going to allow us to actually refresh the page, though we would change that behavior. And we're just going to have a forward arrow inside of it. Cool. So we've got all of our HTML all written out inside of this, and now we're just going to have to go through and edit up with CSS and make it look exactly how we want it to look. So I think that's everything. Yeah, that all looks like what we got. Cool. So let's start and do the easy stuff. It'll be nice and fun. The first thing that we're going to do our reset for our browser. So we're going to set our margin to 0. We're going to set our padding to 0. Then we are also going to give everything a border box, or box sizing border box. Box sizing border box. Cool. Since I'm also up here, I'm going to give everything this font, because everything does have that font, so that makes it nice and easy. Cool. I think that's all that I needed to do inside of my default settings. Yeah, cool. Now the other thing that we are going to do is we're going to go over to our body tag, and we're going to give this a height of 100 VH, because we want it to actually end at some place. So that just filled in that we can go all the way to the bottom. Our whole page has this height. Cool. Then let's throw in the header, because we just want that frame of reference. So we're going to give a header over here. We're going to give it a height of 150 pixels, just something generic. Yeah, we already see it popping up. We're going to give it a background. For this, I use that classic Figma gray. So that's all C4, 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 C4. Cool. Perfect. All right. Now we want to move this chat down to this bottom corner over here. So what we're going to use is absolute positioning, because we want to take this chat out of the flow of our website. And when we first start our first instance of absolute position, it's going to assume that the larger element that is being contained in is what it's relative to. So if I were to grab my .chat window, because that's what we're moving, chat window, I am going to give it a position of absolute. Position absolute. And then I am going to give it a bottom of, gosh, can I turn off all notifications from now? Perfect. Bottom 20 pixels. And you see it moves down to the bottom 20 pixels. And I want to give it right of 20 pixels as well. Right 20 pixels. So we're going to nestle it right in that bottom corner. It's not really going to move too much, because this is all spaced out. The other things that we're going to do with the chat windows, we're going to give it its overall size. We want this to have a definite size, so we're going to give it a height of 400 pixels and a width of 300 pixels, so we'll make it nice rectangle over here. Cool. We also are going to give it that nice border that we have over here, but we're not actually going to use a border. We're going to use an outline. Because it's position absolute, it doesn't really matter, but I've been just liking using outlines more because I don't rearrange items on our page. We're going to do 4 pixels solid and then this blue color. So I'm going to grab this blue up here. It's just a pretty bright blue, pretty aggressive blue. There we go. Cool. Now, obviously, we want to change the border radius of this. We're going to give this a border radius of 2 rem. Cool. And things start to get cut out, so we're going to want to move some stuff with inside of it, but we're going to do that in the text chat or chat itself instead of the chat window. But yeah, that's going to do it for the chat window. It looks pretty good so far. Cool. So yeah, let's easily call out our dot chat, and we're going to give this some padding on the inside. Let's say 1 rem to begin, and that moves everything out there. So that looks pretty good inside so far, and we might change some things up with that later. But yeah, that just gives us a nice spot to work with. So let's start at the top, and we're going to start to organize this right over here. We're going to take that CC, which we called our icon. So we're going to call out our icon. I'm realizing that I'm recording this super small. I'm so sorry. Let's zoom this in. And let's actually zoom out just a little bit. Cool. And I'm going to take my header just for my tutorial. Really drop that down so it's easier to see all this. I'm so sorry that I had this so small for so long. Can I even do 75 right here? No, I'm just gonna, we'll have a reference of a header up there. Cool. So now we've got our icon. And for our icon, let's give this a height of, we'll do 75 pixels. I'm also going to use something else that I've been liking, aspect ratio. I'm going to give this an aspect ratio of 1. It's newly supported. I know they can't see it right now, but once we give a background, and this is also that blue color. Ooh, what did I do? Copy. Paste it. It makes it square. So if I had this aspect ratio at like 0.5, it's going to be half the width as it is the height, because that's the aspect ratio that I have it set to. But if I keep this at 1 and say that I adjust this to 100, it's still going to keep it square, which is nice, so that if I were to adjust this, we've got everything that we want. Cool. All right, so now I've got that all looking good. I am also going to give this a border radius of 50%. That also using 50% is going to be great, because if I change the size, it's going to always stay around if I change its height or whatever. Cool. Let's give the color that off-white. Just do white too. It's not a huge deal. And then we're also going to give it a display. I'm going to do a display grid and place items center, because I think it's just the fastest way to center up anything. If I spelled display right. There we go. Now we've got that all centered up. So nice little grid to make that center. It's quick. Let's also give a font size. We're going to give this a size of 2 rem. Yeah, 2 rem, and a font weight of bold. And there we go. We've got our nice little CC icon. But it is inside of the chat, so we are actually going to want to move that. That's going to be important for us. So what we are going to do is we're going to take this inside chat item, and we're going to give this a position relative, because we want to move that icon in relation to that chat that it actually sits. So we could give this a position relative and then move it out, but it doesn't remove it from the order of our HTML, which is not ideal for us. So now this is all our styling. So we'll do styling. Cool. So up here, we're going to give it a position of relative. Cool. Oh, nope, not a position relative. We just did that. Absolute. And it's going to remove it from the order, but it still keeps it in relation to where it was before, which is inside of the chat. And then we are just going to move it directly left. So we're going to do a left value of, let's do negative 100 pixels. Cool. So now we've got CC out here. It's a little far. I want to keep it pretty contained over here. So let's do 80. 80's a little too close. 85. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. There is that padding up top, so you can see that the padding also affects this, which I don't think is bad. If I really wanted to move it up, I could give it a top of negative 1 rem, which should, oh, I moved it a little too far. 0.5 rem. Yeah, it's still a little too far. It's a little weird. I'm gonna leave it without that top. I think this is fine. Cool. All right. So now we've got how you're chatting with CC. Let's edit that up. So when I go over here and I give this paragraph that we called CC text, I can give this a background of this light gray color that I have up here. That's E6, 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 E6. Cool. I'm gonna give this a little bit of padding to move everything in. Let's do 0.5 rem. There we go. And let's give it a border radius of 0.25 rem. That is just small. Cool. There we go. That still doesn't look as iPhone-y as I want it to look. 1 rem works fine. Cool. All right. So how you're chatting with CC, perfect. We've got it. It looks great right now. We're going to see that there's a little issue with doing it this way, and we're going to have to wrap it, but that's okay. So we've got this text over here. We've got these items over here, and we want to space these items down at the bottom over here. Absolute positioning is going to make this not responsive, and we want our text to flow if we were to have this adding items into it. So what we are going to do is we are going to take this chat, and like I said, we're going to use this for our positioning. So I'm going to give this chat a display property of flex. Everything goes into a column or a row, which we want to change it to a column. So we're going to give a flex direction of column. Cool. And then I'm going to do my justify content to be space between. Oh, yeah. I'm sitting here like it's not doing anything. It's doing the right thing. It just doesn't have a height. Because this div is not inherited the height of the div around it, we're going to give this a height of 100%, and it'll fill in this box. Now, obviously, this is, again, not ideal because we've got account over here, service question over here, and we've got these guys hanging out over here. But we want this right here to be the top and then these to go down to the bottom. So what we can do is we can take our CC text and we're going to give this a flex priority by saying that this has a flex property of 1. When we do that, yes, it moves everything down here and it makes this background take up this whole size, which is not going to be great. But I want to point out this flex property 1. That means that it should take up the largest portion of the page. We could also give other properties a portion of the page too. Like if I wanted to also take that account button and we give account and we also give that a flex 1, you'll see that they get to be the same size. So now these are equal sizes because they both have a ratio of 1. But if I change this to 2, this is now 2 and this is 1, so together they make 1/3, and this takes up the rest of the page. Well, they create 3/3, 2/3, 1/3 over there. But we're just going to keep this as a flex of 1, and we're going to remove this account. I don't think that we even need those. Cool. So now, if we want to have this maintain like a background and everything like that, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our index, and where we have this chat, this you're chatting with CC, I'm going to take a div and I'm going to give this a class of CC messages, and we're going to take this paragraph and we're going to throw it inside over here. And you can see that that's working pretty good, but we still have that justify content thing. So what we got to do is now take our dot CC messages and give that the flex of 1. This, I'm going to remove this flex of 1, though it doesn't do anything. It's just unnecessary text. Cool. So now we're looking pretty close over here. We just have a couple things left to do, but the chat is looking real nice. I like that. Cool. So let's call out our auto prompts. I'm going to scroll this up as much as I can. Auto prompt. And inside of this, we are going to give this, let's do a width of max content. Will allow me to do a max content here. Yeah, look at that. Width of max content is going to allow them to wrap right over there. We also have them positioned in the wrong spot, so we're going to give this an align self at end. Bada bing, bada boom. We move them over there. That align self property is a game changer. Cool. We also are going to give them a border of none, but we are going to give them that same outline that we're using on our chat window. So I'm going to copy this whole line over here. So it's 4 pixels solid with that blue color. This again, they're going to overlap and they're not going to look great at the beginning. Yep. But that's okay because we are just going to give them a margin. Cool. It moves them away from the side, which I don't want. So I'm going to give this a margin of, we'll do margin block. Cool. So it keeps it on the side, but it still allows this to move the way. You can see that it's red because it's not fully supported on all browsers, but it is in beta. So margin block, margin inline just allows us to write this very quickly. Though margin with 2 properties also works pretty well too, but I digress. There's more ways to skin a cat. We're gonna give this a padding of, let's do 0.5 rem, and yeah, that looks good. With a border radius too. Border radius of 0.5 rem. Nah, they're square. Don't want that. 1 rem. 1.5 rem? Yeah, there we go. Cool. So now they're fully sealed out like that. They do have a background to them, so I'm going to take that background, and I'm gonna give it that off-white. Cool. We're going to change the color of these guys to that blue. We're good over here. Cool. We've got these questions. We can add the hover, or you can add that on your own, because I don't want this tutorial going over 30 minutes. It's already taken kind of a bit of time. All right, so now with this form, we're gonna do some similar things. So we're gonna call out our form. We're gonna do a display of flex, and we are going to give this a justify content of space between. Cool. Move some over. What do we call that? Input. Did I not give a... Oh, I never closed my input. Oh, inputs don't need to be closed. That's why. Okay. So we didn't give it a class, but that's okay. It's our only input on the page. So we're gonna drag this back out. Let's see, what do I want to do? Oop. We're gonna call out our input. We're gonna give that a flex of 1 to make that take up the rest of it. See how we're using that again? Oh, it's so nice. Oh, what I wanted to do inside of the form, I remember now. Adding this outline. Outline has been added. We also are gonna steal that padding and border radius from our auto prompts, just making everything look very similar. That again works wonders. I don't like this double space over here, but that's okay. Our input has a border that I don't like, so we're gonna say a border of none. Cool. The other issue is that when we type in here that we're also going to have that border pop up, so we want to give this an input with focus, and we're going to take that border none over here and throw that into here again. Oh, it's not focus. What? There's a couple of them. Okay. So it's our input focus, it's our text area focus when we focus in on the text area, and if we were to select inside of this, we want to get rid of that too. That's one of those things I gotta always look up. Oh, because that's not a border. It's an outline. Now it's gone. Ain't that something? Cool. Now we'd be able to say, hey, what's up? We can hit this button too, and it'll refresh the page. It sent that text to nowhere. Cool. Last thing that we have to do is get this button all good. So we have that button that just calls send. We're gonna give this a height of 100%, and then a aspect ratio of 1. Beautiful. Border radius of 50%. We're gonna take that border, give it none. Cool. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab that outline property again. Keep it all nice. Sweet. We're gonna give it a background of that blue. Cool. Oh, I don't like how the outline over there works. We're just gonna change this to a border. Cool. That works fine. And then we're going to give this a font size of 1.5 rem. Way too big, way too big. 1 rem. Yeah, this is still larger, but that's okay because that's what we want to bring our focus down to. We'll give this a color of that off-white. And we also will give this a font weight of bold. Cool. All right. So that is our little support chat. If we show this in a new window, it looks great. It's down in that corner. Even if I take this and I move it around, it still stays in that corner from that absolute positioning. Feel free to add those focus states so that we can see when we're hovering over account and service question and the button itself over there. All right, that's going to do it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.